Greetings, YouTube. Today I thought I'd talk about personal quirks, a little lighter tone. I know many of the videos I do on this channel can be somewhat heavy. And I even made up a little list to see if I can remember to think of all of the personal quirks that were on my mind at the time. And putting this list together, I discovered that a number of these are number related, which I guess in some ways makes sense. Um, People like numbers, and I've been a big fan of even numbers for my entire life, which is weird seeing as my favorite number is in fact 57, which is where the 57 comes from in my username. Um, so this is going to be a slightly lighter toned video. So here we go. I have a specific oatmeal bowl I have breakfast with every day, and a specific dinner bowl I use for dinner weeknights. And if these bowls are not available, I will of course use something else. I'm not going to get stressed about it, but I normally have the bowl prepared because I am the guy that does the dishes when it comes to these bowls are concerned. I have specific spoons I use. I have a spoon that I use for my oatmeal in the morning. In fact, I did a video about that particular spoon in its relationship to role-playing games. And I have another specific spoon I use for dinner. But again, if these spoons are not available, I use something else, but they are normally available. Um, the even numbers things I mentioned, whenever I set the volume on something, whether it's my volume here on my computer, on my Blu-ray player in the living room, or my television when I use my Blu-ray player, or in my car, I always set them at an even number. In fact, when I'm alone in the car and the windows are closed, it's always set at 12. If I'm on the highway, it goes up because it's noisier. But it's always an even number. That just seems to me to be where I want it. It's almost like if I put it in an odd number, I can't hear the difference somehow. I'm not positive, and I make that leap to the even number, and it becomes noticeably louder. I don't. It's just the way it is. And at one time, before we were married, uh, my wife would often visit me when I worked for another company. And I'm actually not sure if that company is still around or not. But regardless, I was an incoming inspector at the place, and she would come by and spend time with me at my lunchtime. And when she did, she would often stop at my apartment to pick up snacks to bring for us to share. And she had a key to my house, so that was fine with me. And she would often bring an odd number of cookies because she knew how much it bothered me to eat an odd number of cookies. Because at one time my anxiety levels were much higher than they are now, and I would always eat cookies in twos. Now my food does not have to be in even numbers, but there was a time when it being in even numbers was very important to me. Um, and so she would intentionally do that because she liked to poke the bear. Um, and it always made me smile when she'd show up and she'd like this little bag of cookies out. There'd be 6 cookies because there'd be 3 for her and 3 for me. I was never mean enough to eat 4. I'd only let her make her have 2. Um, but going back to dishes, when I have been speaking about at the beginning of this video, this is a quirk that I have not been able to figure out, and that is the dishes in the sink. Now, if the dishes are in the sink below the level of the sink, I'm okay. Got no problem with the dishes. They can sit in there for 6, 12 hours. I don't care, and I'll get around to washing them when I get around to washing them. But if they go above the lip of the sink, because you got a stack of dishes in there waiting to get done, that gets to me. And it gets to me to the point where I become nauseous. Now, I'm not talking about the dishes full of food, because I tend to consume all the food, and I tend to rinse the dishes before I walk away. So they're just dishes sitting in there they're not clean, but they're also not festering in filth. And I can't tell you why it bugs me. I can't tell you why it makes me nauseous. In fact, I would love to know, of all the issues I have been unpacking and disassembling through my course of therapy, and I'll admit I haven't concentrated on this particular issue a great deal, but I have been able to figure out why the heck dishes make me nauseous when there are too many of them in the sink. Doesn't matter how many are in the dish drainer. Once they're clean, I don't care how high they're stacked, as long as they're as long as they're not falling out of the sink onto the floor. And sometimes I am lazy and don't always put the dishes away as quickly as possible. Um, because I get nauseous if there's too many dishes in the sink, I do a lot of dishes. It's my issue. It's not my wife's issue. I'm not going to ask my wife to do dishes just to accommodate my particular issue, particularly one I don't know why it's there. I just don't. I have no idea. Um, and my therapist hasn't had any insights either, because I have no memory of anything bad ever being attached to a memory of the sink. Nothing. Not in childhood, not in relationships, not in my first marriage, nothing. I can make no association at all with the negative events that took place right into a sink, and yet there it is. So those, I'm sure. I mean, we all have personal quirks, so I probably have vastly more than these, but this is enough for this video to get the ball rolling. So I want people to talk about their personal quirks. What are the things that you do that other people find a little bit strange, um, but you do them anyway, just because that's what makes you happy? And if I use the same bowl or use the same spoon, that's no one's business but my own. Um, if I set the volume in a specific way in my car, or my entertainment center, or here on my computer, again, it's just my own business and no one else's. So these are quirks. They don't really have any affect anybody else's life, but they do have an impact on mine, I should say. So tell me, what are your personal quirks?